Briahna Joy Gray. Oh, yeah. Where do I begin? Has not been having a good past 48 hours. Now, if you did not see the interview or what has been happening to her on Twitter, you are going to see this now. To make a long story short, Briahna Joy Gray interviewed a gentleman named Joe. I'll call him Joe C. after his last name, who works for the State Department. I'll get to that in a second. About the Ukraine letter, the letter that was retracted, that the progressives wrote and signed and was pulled back. And I thought he did not advocate for his side well. Like, I thought that he just sounded like he was making State Department talking points. Typical, right? So first, I'm going to show you what was said. This is the clip that got everybody fired up. So I'm going to show you this video clip here of the interview. His name is Joe Ciracione. This is the video that made people come after her, this clip in particular. So let's listen to this, and then we'll talk about it, and we'll get to everything else that has transpired since then. So here we go.
They're stealing Ukrainian children. 500 just yesterday were shipped to Russia. And this is why we should be supporting them. We cannot allow this kind of evil to go unchecked, just on a basic moral reason. I mean, don't you agree with that?
I'm sorry, I don't. And here's why.
Why?
There are gangs that have overtaken Haiti. There is a cholera pandemic that was started by the UN. UN members raped Haitians. A third of Pakistan was underwater. Should we go, due to the climate crisis, should we go and invade China? Because
let me go back to this point, because there's one part. Okay.
They're stealing Ukrainian children. 500 just yesterday were shipped to Russia. And this is why we should be supporting them. We can't.
Okay. The part that people are pointing to, and it's a lot of trolls. The part that people are pointing to is the part where she rolled her eyes. What they're saying on Twitter is that she rolled her eyes about genocide. Obviously, she was rolling her eyes about the trope that he made about the children. And we hear this all the time when people say, but what about the women and the children? And the point that she's going to make here is that it seems like there's only certain types of women and children they tend to claim to care about. And she's 100% correct. Because what about the women and children in Haiti? What about the women and children in Somalia? What about the women and children in Yemen? What about the women and children in Afghanistan? You don't hear that same type of sympathy and compassion for the women and the children when they're in countries where the people are people of color. You don't hear about it. Most people I talk to don't even know about what's happening to people in Somalia. Most people I talk to don't even know where Yemen is located. You see the problem? So she's 100% right about that. Let's go on.
Cannot allow this kind of evil to go unchecked, just on a basic moral reason. I mean, don't you agree with that?
I'm sorry, I don't. And here's why.
Why?
There are gangs that have overtaken Haiti. There is a cholera pandemic that was started by the UN. UN members raped Haitians. A third of Pakistan was underwater. Should we go, due to the climate crisis, should we go and invade China because Uyghurs are in concentration camps? Tell me, articulate. And this is the question that I asked Matt Duss when this war first started. Until you can articulate to me what the rationale is behind where America intervenes and where it doesn't, and give me some kind of moral accounting that makes me believe that it's actually about moral commitment and realizing how much of our money and our resources in the richest country in the world can go to saving lives and increasing the quality of life for the most people, as opposed to a strategic military intervention for territory, resources, and political control. If you can articulate to me why this is truly the most deserving humanitarian case on the planet, as opposed to a continuation of these Cold War policies. We want our economic system, our oppressive, by the way, economic system to maintain global dominance, then I can start to entertain a conversation about what our intervention should be, how long, and how much. But there is nowhere in the entire public sphere that that conversation is actually happening, and nowhere close to a rationalization that's been presented.
Okay. Now, that is the clip that got everybody in a doozy, including her guest. And I honestly feel like he started this, because after that clip came out, he decided to tweet his frustration about the way that he was supposedly treated and that he was attacked. Let's look at what he says. I've done lots of interviews on the right and the left. Never has the host weaponized the interview to attack me and encouraged their supporters to post hundreds of insults and smears without correction. Don't make my mistake. Never go on Bad Faith Pod with Bree Joy. Okay. First of all, how was he attacked? He couldn't take someone disagreeing with him, because if we want to call this a debate, I don't feel like he won his side. I don't feel like he argued his point well. And he didn't say anything that I hadn't already heard mainstream media say, right? Second, when did she send her supporters to come after him? No, she didn't send her supporters to come after him. What happened was we all saw that clip and we realized that you were full of it. Because I remember I commented and I think I said, this guy is something else, huh? Because he doesn't understand how he sounds. And what I think happened here, I think maybe for the first time, he got some type of pushback on this particular issue that he was not expecting to get. I think that he was expecting most people to be in support of what is happening in the U.S. involvement with helping Ukraine. And a lot of Americans that I have spoken to are fed up. And even some people who I knew in the beginning, they agreed with the aid. Even some of them now are saying, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, I don't have health insurance, but billions of dollars are going to them. So people are seeing this, and I don't think he was used to this type of pushback. I don't think he expected it. And I think it took him by surprise. So he tweeted this out. And after he tweeted this message, all hell broke loose. Because then Bree started to get attacked by two different groups of people based on what I saw. One group was those NAFO accounts. Now, for those who don't know, NAFO is North Atlantic Fellas Organization. You have to understand who they are on Twitter. Now, they're supposed to be, like the pro, like Ukraine, like organization. They have a troll farm on Twitter. And you can tell who they are. Like most of them, the account was created like a month ago. They all have the little profile pictures with the little dog with this uniform on or some type of clothing on, but it's the little dog you'll see in just a second. So the NAFO accounts, what they do is they go after people who have a different narrative than the mainstream media narrative about this conflict with Russia and Ukraine. So they came after Bree. They've also come after Jackson Hinkle. I've seen them come after Aaron Mate, well, the whole Gray Zone crew, anybody that has a different narrative. That is what they exist for. But the way that they went after her, they have been attacking her nonstop, and not just them, but she's also been attacked by liberals. A lot of liberals are attacking her. This has been going on for 2 days. Before I went live, they were still attacking her. So in reference to NAFO, she tweeted some background on the NAFO accounts targeting me right now. Some praise from the Washington Post followed by the revelation that the founder is a Nazi. So Nick talked about this on RBN before. The memes make sense now. So the Washington Post, they actually were praising this group. With NAFO, Ukraine turns the trolls on Russia. Like, they were praising this group, this organization, you guys, without doing their research. And then you find out later on, pro-Ukrainian NAFO troll chief outed as Nazi. The account behind the pro-Western meme also denied the Holocaust. And these are the same accounts that were responding to her guest in support of him. So you see, you got to know where the origin of these groups and where they come from. And this is the same group that the Washington Post praised. So here you go. You got Washington Post out there. You got WAPO out there praising the Nazi group. Let's go on. So she started to get memes, and I'm going to go to this, the other one over here, because I'm only showing you some of the things that were sent. Some of them I'm not going to show. But there were a lot of things said. She was also getting racist attacks. So here's one of them. Again, do you guys see this? I'm not going to say it. Like, this was nonstop. This is supposed to be Cotton. You see this? And by the way, they retweeted him, her guest. So it gets worse. They even tried to go after her Wikipedia page. They can't fire me. They can't censor me. So they're editing my wiki page. LOL. Let's see if they try to get Patreon to platform me next. So someone had sent her the screenshot where they were editing her wiki page. I think this has been fixed. I have to double check. But they were editing her wiki page saying in a November 2022 interview, she advocated against preventing the genocide of Ukrainians by Russia, specifically the deportations of Ukrainian children to Russia. That is not what she said. But do you see how this, and you know what's messed up with Wikipedia? How other people can just go and add shit and remove things from your page, and you have no say so over this. So the gray zone had to deal with this as well. But you see how they could just add that in there when that's not what she said? It gets worse. So then after that, they came after her Patreon. Predictably, they're trying to get me banned from my Patreon, my primary source of income, and the way I remain independent. And you can see here, I'll click on the image here so you can see it. It says, Patreon support. Do you want to be associated with this woman? Oh, no, let's make it bigger. If you do, I will not be using or giving anything to do with Patreon ever again. Now that's from Dr. Bunsen Honeydew. And look, NAFO right here. So, or does Patreon support genocide? So Patreon responded and said, thanks for reaching out. If you feel this creator is violating our terms or guidelines, you can report them using the information on this page. So I responded to her privately, and well, publicly, then privately. Publicly, I said, this is what they were trying to do all along. They're trying to get you deplatformed. And these troll farms, and like I said, it's not just NAFO. There were also white liberals that were attacking her. And, I had to sit back and, sometimes I may not always chime in, but I do observe, and I did notice something. Where is the solidarity on the left? And I asked that question because, like I said, I saw this went on for hours, like over 48 hours is still happening from what I saw. And I noticed something. I didn't see that many of the white progressives coming to her defense. That's a good point, JB. I didn't see that many of them coming to her defense. You know who did come to her defense? RBN did. I think Gray Zone did. I think I saw something from Gray Zone and also Jimmy as well. But, you know, I gotta say this. Your silence is noticeable. And here she is, like, and that the attack that she got, the racist comment or whatever, that's just one of them. There were several. And so here you have someone, I would say one of the most prominent figures on the left, one of the only Black commentators. There are not that many of us, as you see. And one of the only Black women, which there are very, very few of us on the left commentators, getting all of these racist attacks nonstop on Twitter. Where were the left white comrades to support her? They were silent. They were silent. And whether they agree with the statement that she made in the interview or not, one of your own is getting attacked publicly. And I know they saw it because I saw it. Getting attacked publicly on Twitter and racist attacks. And you're silent? This is why, and I'm going to get to her response in a minute. This is why, you know, especially those of us over at RBN, what if we weren't here? You see what I'm saying? Why are they all so quiet? Why are they all so silent? This is why, you know, those of us at RBN will tell you, like, look, at some point you have to draw a line in the sand. And for me, based on what I've seen, especially part of like this progressive movement or whatever it is supposed to be today, I don't feel there's really a place for Black people in this movement. I really don't. Because one of the things I noticed is that we're all together in solidarity when it's time to fight for like Medicare for all, which obviously I heavily support that. I go to the marches Medicare for all. We're all in solidarity when it comes, well, we were in solidarity with like Bernie Sanders and stuff like that, right? But something that I've noticed, I've sat back and I've seen over the years, it seems like whenever it's an issue that primarily affects Black people, all of a sudden the solidarity just go out the window. When it's an issue that affects Black people, you're on your own. If you're Black and you're in this space, you're on your own. They are not coming to help you. Most of them, for the most part. They want you to fight those battles on your own. But they want us to stand with them for everything else. You see what I'm saying? All these people calling out and having this pain and passion for Nancy Pelosi's husband being attacked. One of your own is being attacked right in front of your face. Someone you actually know. And you can't say nothing. You can make a video about Nancy Pelosi's husband being attacked. Yes, this was a physical attack, but still. But you can't make a video about one of your own on the left, someone you actually do know, being attacked. You can't say nothing? Why? Where are they at? Where's TYT? Where's Majority Report? Where they at on this issue? Why are they so quiet? Now, she did respond. So I'll play a little bit of that.
Briahna, what's on your radar?
Well, Robbie, some simpering, warmongering liberals are getting pretty lost on Ukraine, and it stands to cost them a lot more than just midterms. You see, I got into trouble on Monday when, on my podcast, Bad Faith, I interviewed a national security expert and former president of Plowshares Fund, Joe Cirenzioni, about his critique of the now infamous Congressional Progressive Caucus letter. In my eyes, the letter offered a mere glimmer of hope that the left wasn't going to completely concede its anti-war bona fides to the right, but Joe saw it differently, tweeting, "This isn't about the left or rejection of diplomacy. It is about a very small group with a very specific idea of how to force Ukraine to end the war. This is not diplomacy. It is great power politics." What Representative Raskin today called a, quote, colonial reflex. Now, of course, nothing in the CPC letter articulated a specific idea of how to end the war, and it certainly didn't force Ukraine to end it on any timeline or under any specific conditions. In fact, the letter lauded Joe Biden's approach to the war and the billions in appropriations Biden has sent via the Ukraine relief packages. But that didn't stop liberals from completely melting down. As a Vox write-up explained, even as many journalists and experts pointed out that much of the letter's contents echoed parts of President Joe Biden's own rhetoric or were otherwise anodyne, international affairs professor and Vox contributor Daniel Drinzer called it a giant nothing burger. Critics piled on the members of Congress on social media and picked apart every word of it. And so, the courageous progressive lions at the CPC stuck to their guns and LOL, just kidding. Caucus leader Pramila Jayapal offered a correction before ultimately retracting the letter.
So we know about that part. I want to fast forward to the part here about the video, about the attacks. Doo-doo-doo. Okay, there we go.
China because Uyghurs are in concentration camps? Tell me, articulate. And this is the question that I asked Matt Duss when this war first started. Until you can articulate to me what the rationale is behind where America intervenes and where it doesn't, and give me some kind of moral accounting that makes me believe that it's actually about moral commitments and realizing how much of our money and our resources in the richest country in the world can go to saving lives and increasing the quality of life for the most people, as opposed to a strategic military intervention for territory, resources, and political control. If you can articulate to me why this is truly the most deserving humanitarian case on the planet, as opposed to a continuation of these Cold War policies, we want our economic system, our oppressive, by the way, economic system to maintain global dominance, then I can start to entertain a conversation about what our intervention should be, how long, and how much.
Now, you can watch a free 30-minute clip of that interview over at the Bad Faith YouTube channel or subscribe on Patreon to watch the whole thing. But for now, you'll have to trust me when I say he never offered a satisfactory explanation, at least not in my view. As you heard, he attempted to use abuses against children, an emotional ploy so common and trite that it's literally a meme, to shame me into dropping my legitimate concerns. And although many blue checks are at this very moment accusing me of rolling my eyes at genocide, I was in fact rolling my eyes at Joe using such a cliched argument to avoid the fundamental question.
Right. So this part here is key because this is the part that they're taking and they're making memes out of and saying that she was rolling her eyes about genocide. That's what they're saying. And obviously that wasn't the case.
Why save these women, these children, but not these ones?
Yep.
Now, it's worth noting that some fact checkers have disputed Joe's account of kidnapped Ukrainian children. But even if we accept it on its face, as I did in the interview, and as much as my heart aches for human suffering everywhere, a humanitarian crisis in Ukraine does not get to the question of why and to what extent America should play the world's policeman. And if it does adopt the role as a global cop, why are we only choosing to police certain neighborhoods? 2.2 million Yemeni children under the age of 5 are starving right now as a result of a Saudi-backed war. The United States has sent $4.5 billion in humanitarian aid to Yemen since the beginning of the conflict 7 years ago. Compare that to the $40 billion aid package that went out the door earlier this year. And while words like evil are used frequently to describe Putin, Saudi princes are apparently off the hook. Joe Biden flew to Saudi Arabia to fist bump the architect of the tragedy in Yemen and beg him for oil so that Biden could keep control of Congress.
And this is the point, the hypocrisy. You know, they'll paint one person as this evil, you know, I don't know, corrupt person, that dark overlord that needs to be stopped. But then they'll shake hands with the other one. If it's something that they can offer to the US, they have no problem shaking hands with that evil, dark overlord. If it's someone that could be a threat in reference to competition to the United States or doesn't go along with what the US wants you to do, they're the ones that they try to target and take down. We'll fast forward to this part here. Sorry.
It doesn't bother the blob. It's not their lives at stake, not their kids dying in the war. This is the critical point. Ukraine is not going to militarily defeat Russia. This should not come as a shock to you. Russia is a nuclear capable superpower. Ukraine is not.
It's funny though, because you know, it's true. We've been saying that from the very beginning. So all that money and aid that they're sending to them, by the way, the US government knows that. They know they're not going to, come on. Billions and billions of dollars out the door. For what?
Here's former special advisor to the UN Secretary General, Jeffrey Sachs, on this very point.
Because the United States seems militarily to believe that they will defeat Russia. Russia is a country with considerable firepower, to say the least, and with 1,800 active nuclear warheads. And so all of this talk of defeating Russia, to my mind, is reckless. But at my age, I'm 67, I've lived through decades of reckless U.S. foreign policy, U.S. bravado, and I'm afraid that we're at it again.
This is why it makes no sense to say that America has no right to weigh in on the end of this conflict. In fact, that framing actually is all wrong. It seems obvious that Americans have a right to weigh in on where their money is going. And yet I've seen the following argument all over the place. Why do some Americans think that they're so special and unique that we have an obligation to prove anything to them / convince them?
Yeah, this was a comment. This was another comment that someone had, they had sent to her. I remember this one.
Obsessed and selfish much? I'm sorry, but the world doesn't revolve around you, said one tweet. Man, it's literally our tax dollars. And if you don't want any input on how you fight Russia, I totally get it. America has certainly done enough meddling in Ukraine for a lifetime. But now that U.S. money is involved, you can't treat the possible end or diminishment of U.S. aid as coercive in and of itself. When Democrats do this, they give Kevin McCarthy license to credibly argue that Democrats are presenting Ukraine a blank check. What else can you call it if discussing any prospective limit or on U.S. aid gets you named a genocide denier? Again, at no point did I or the CPC letter actually say that aid should be withdrawn. But if asking questions about a diplomatic plan to end the war makes Democrats call you a vile you-know-what?
You see this? This is one of them. You get called out for eye rolling at genocide and your answer is another eye roll. Vile bitch. You guys see this? It's been nonstop. Nonstop.
Is there any wonder that the right is seen as a more hospitable place for peace movement?
See? And this is exactly why, and we were talking about this over at RBN, this is exactly why people will actually right now, some people are pointing to people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're like, well, she's right. Like, we should stop giving them money. We do need to call for some type of peace. Now it's like, why are they more sensible on this issue per se? Now, I will say that both parties are pro-war and they're probably against this right now because of the fact that, number one, the inflation, but number two, also it's done under Democrat administration. Let's be real here. But at the same time, who looks to be sensible right now when it comes to this issue? Not all the other ones, but just this issue in particular. And this is why next week, I think Dem's going to lose some of these seats Because you can't continue to keep making this excuse that the billions and billions going out the door as if the American people don't even see. They know exactly what's happening. They know you have the money. They know you have it. So it's embarrassing at this point. The American people are not as stupid as they think. But God forbid you even question it or you push back on it. That's the problem. They don't want you to question it. They don't want you to push back. And I got to tell you this as well. I told you that guy, State Department. Where is his page? Uh-oh, I made this too big. I made it too small. I made that too small. Look at it. Let me show you this guy, okay? This is the guy that was interviewed. All right. Joe, national security expert, member of the CFR org, former president at Plowshares, VP AmProg, American Progress. So he comes from American Progress, director of Carnegie Endowment. Look at this. House Armed Services Democrats, taught at Georgetown, former ISAB advisor, State Department. So this is the talking point that he's going to have because he's coming from the State Department, and his job is to make sure that the message that Bree sent doesn't get out to more people. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't have proof. This is a guess, but I wouldn't be surprised if he signaled for those NAFO people to go after her. Wouldn't be surprised. Aye. Thank you for the super chat, Delthea. On GP, always remember, there's nothing in the middle of the road but yellow stripes and dead armadillos. Bill, I am not sure any group of people gets more flack than a Black person that doesn't toe the DNC line. It is always a pile on and it's always gross. This is true. Jeremy, they can't challenge your argument, so they resort to character. Roxanne, he can't take this attack because he's eager for war. Typical. There's a picture of this guy with the Raytheon shirt on too. Thank you for the super chat, Marvin. U.S. picks what is moral if country has resource or strategic location. Otherwise, crimes can go on unmentioned. Thank you for the super sticker, JM. Desiree, Joe, like I've never been attacked like this. LOL. OMG, let the racism be revealed. A Black woman using logic and intellect and evidence is violent to white supremacy. Thank you for the super chat, Colin. People were up in arms when Jimmy Dore said the N-word when he was on TYT, but had no problem tweeting that meme to BJG, the hypocrisy. Same people. Thank you for the super chat, Newbie. Joe didn't know who he's up against. When BJG starts on an opinion I disagree with, I know I'm going to have to process well thought out, rational ideas. Thank you for the super chat. Think before you type. She did attack him with the truth, and when he couldn't handle it, he resorts to typical projections and weaponization against Bree, delusional at best. Thank you for the super chat, Lana. Bree is amazing. She is my hero. Welcome, Lana. Thank you for the super chat, Colin. Sabby, you know as well as I do that the big channels don't like Bree that much. Define big channel. Like, I don't know. I've seen her on a lot of those actually. Thank you for the membership, Seabass. Thank you for becoming a Sabby member. And thank you for the super chat, Isabel. Nina Turner can rage tweet at JD for a simple criticism, but silent when an educated Black woman gets called subhuman. I can't disagree. Thank you for the super chat, Miss. They silent because they have to say the same narrative as the white dude. I don't have a Twitter, but we are lucky to have Briahna in this world. Doing what's right is hard. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for the super sticker, JM. Yeah, I haven't heard Sebastian. Honey, this tea is hot. Yeah, I didn't see Nina Turner say anything either, but I'm sorry, but maybe some people may have reached out privately, but with that type of situation, how she was constantly being public attacked like that, I think you should have said something publicly. That's my take on that. But I still stand by what I said. This progressive movement or whatever, it doesn't really have a place for Black people. And I say it again, you have to draw a line in the sand at some point. Boom.